The land explored by our ancestors extends from Altai to the White Sea. The scientific expedition Trails of Nomads continues to unveil the path of our forefathers. Its leader is a true citizen of the world. He believes without a deep understanding of the past, there is no future. Each journey is focused on a detailed study of history and culture. Pilgrim of the 21st century, Abbasi Mukhtar, with a team of scientists, has already visited more than 50 countries. Scientists reveal the exciting secrets of the past. Watch an amazing story of a great journey in the Trails of Nomads program. Where did the information come from that the sculptures located near the Kozy-Korpesh and Bayan Sulu mausoleums were taken to Germany? What special exhibits are kept in the House Museum of Mukhtar Auezov in Borili? How many days did it take for Abai to get from Zhidebai to Semey? On a cart kept in the courtyard of the Museum of the Great Poet and Thinker. Despite the fact that Semey became a victim of nuclear testing, it did not lose its sacredness. No weapon could erase the spirit of the great land, which gave such a genius, an outstanding thinker Abai. His work has become the legacy of not only Kazakhs but of all mankind. The poet's homeland, in modern times, has revived again and serves as the historical center of the country. In the year of the 175th birth anniversary of Abai, various events were held in the legendary city. Semey is developing and flourishing. This is important for the whole country.
Semey қазақтың ең бір киелі жер деп айтуға болады.
Semey is one of the sacred places in Kazakhstan. It is the birthplace of many outstanding personalities. I would especially emphasize three such people. These are Abai, Shakarim, and Mukhtar Auezov.
Abai, Shakarim, Muktar Attah.
The word Semey is more than the name of the city. According to history, the name has Turkic origin. Translated from the ancient language, Semey means sacred land. Therefore, it is no wonder that many important events in the history of the people are associated with this region, including the birth of the Alash idea. Abai initiated a great wave of changes to the Kazakh land. At this time, when the people's consciousness was awakening, something else was supposed to awaken here. This was Alash idea. This region is full of historical monuments, showing the richness and deepness of the history. One of them is the mausoleum of Kozy-Korpesh and Bayan Sulu. Before going to the lover's grave, the members of the scientific expedition Trails of Nomads visited the sculpture located in the Park of the Youth in the regional center of Ayagoz. This work, dedicated to eternal love, as it tells the young generation about the strong feelings of our ancestors. Despite the long distance and the path to be made to it, the monument with a crescent beckons and leads to the Ayagoz coast. Here, one can see the ancient mausoleum, which stands as if waiting for guests. The eternal lovers Khazi and Bayan Sulu rest here. There is no information when this monument appeared, in what year, in what century. Some sources say that the monument appeared during the period of the Turkic Khaganate in the 6th, 8th centuries. It was built by the younger brother of Sarah, Buyrat Aktaylak B. For this, 40,000 people were hired. This mausoleum was built by them. The area of the Kozy-Korpesh and Bayan Sulu mausoleums is 7 by 7 meters, height is 12 meters. First they built square walls, which were then gradually sharpened to the top. This style of construction is called din. According to scientists, the construction style of din comes from the Hunnic period, when ritual complexes were built this way. The mausoleum was built before the spread of Islam. Monuments of this shape are found in the Torgay and Ulita regions. For example, this is the Dombayol Mausoleum, located 7 kilometers from the grave of Joshi Han. It was built exactly in this style.
Kozy-Korpesh Bayan Sulu episi küllü Türk tayfaları.
The epic Kozy-Korpesh and Bayan Sulu is a common heritage for all Turkic tribes. According to the laws of the steppe, the two lovers couldn't be together. Despite this, though, for a short period of time, they lived in love with each other.
Az uақыт болса да бірін-бірін сүйіп өмір сүрді.
There were 4 sculptures around the mausoleum at one time. Shokan Walikhanov wrote about this. Famous local historian of the 20th century, Andrei Belosludov, in his letter to the researcher of the poem Kozy-Korpesh and Bayan Sulu, Grigory Potanin spoke about the absence of sculptures and about the shelling of the mausoleum from cannons. Then, when asked where the sculptures had gone, the scientist answered, with information from his brother, scholar Viktor Nikolaevich, the sculptures were taken to Germany. There are 4 tombstones in the Kozy-Korpesh and Bayan Sulu mausoleum. 3 of them are installed over the graves of women and 1 over the grave of a man. The first stone belongs to Bayan, the rest to her sisters Aygaz and Tansik, but the 4th belongs to Kozy. The Kozy-Korpesh and Bayan Sulu epic also speaks of the ancient Turks. Today there are over 20 variants of this epic. Of these, the most popular is a copy made by Potanin Konshin. The fact that Abai wrote it down on paper is not known to many. The great thinker brought this epic closer to the samples of written literature and in 1884 sent it to Omsk through Semey. Turkologists, including Zhidebai Kosan, often raise this topic.
Наймандардың да несі бар яғни оның әгінде белгілері болған ал енді мынау кімдер қозылар бұлар.
The Naimans were Nestorians. They had signs of this Christian trend. Kozy adopted the Islam and this led to conflict. In addition, there were other issues, geopolitical ones. It turns out, according to Abai, the word Kozy-Korpesh and Bayan Sulu showed problems that existed between the clans at that time. This is almost the history of our state.
Мемлекеттігіміздің өмір баяны.
The next stop of the expedition led by Sapar Iskakov is the Yenlik-Kebek monument devoted to lovers. It is located in the east of the yearly summer pasturelands, Jailao, in the Abai district on the 5th kilometer of the Semey-Karawil highway. This love story dates back to the 18th century. 2 young lovers became victims of a quarrel between their clans, Tobukti and Naiman. Yenlik and Kebek were tied to horsetails and dragged to death. The words of great Abai are carved on the marble tombstone of the lovers. We lived a little, but we saw a lot. The death of the young is a big wound.
Дала заңы бойынша екеуі қосыла алмады. Бірақ та
According to the laws of the steppes, they could not be together, but they did not obey. They left their homes, hid and lived in the mountains among the stones, but they were still found by horsemen from the Naiman and Tobukti clans and punished by the B's decision.
екеуі жазаланады.
This sad love story has come to us in the form of a poem. There are 2 versions known to us. The first was written by Shakarim and the second by Magawi Abaiule. Later, Mukhtar Auezov wrote a play. It was first staged in 1917. The play was staged 9 kilometers from the Yenlik-Kebek tomb on the Oikudik Jailao in a combined double yurt. A 20-year-old Mukhtar Auezov was stage director and prompter of the drama.
Yenlik-Kebekті Abai өз кезінде жазғызды ғой.
At one time, Abai wrote Yenlik-Kebek, and Shakarim did. Abai was very critical. He did not spare his ancestors. For example, his paternal great-grandfather, Kengerbai B, who severely punished the lovers. When Mukhtar Auezov, who had a European education, began to study Abai's works deeper, he saw ready-made materials for staging. This sad love story was similar to Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, but more tragic.
Сіздің Шекспиріңіздің ар жағына кетіп қалады Ромео и Джульеттаның.
The members of the scientific expedition also visited Borili, homeland of Mukhtar Auezov. The writer was born here and spent his childhood in this place. Mukhtar Auezov compared the native land of Borili with his own mother. The house of the Auezov family was located at the foot of the hill. It is 82 kilometers from Semey. If you go along the Semey-Karawil highway, you need to turn east and drive about 4 kilometers more. The Borili Museum was officially opened in 1987. This event was timed to the 90th birth anniversary of Mukhtar Auezov. This is the place where Muktar Attah was born. This area is called Borili. Bori means wolf in Kazakh. Borili is a land with many wolves. There is a work by Mukhtar Auezov called Serek, the story of the domestication of the wolf. The events in it took place in this area. Muktar Attah was born here on September 28, 1897. The old project and the exterior of the house have been completely preserved. The one-story building is 22.3 meters long, 13.2 meters wide, and 3.5 meters high. The house consists of 8 rooms and has been completely renovated several times. Every corner of this house tells visitors about the writer's childhood and adolescence. This large room belonged to grandfather Auez and grandmother Nasil. Here Mukhtar Auezov, from the age of 5, began to read and write in Arabic. His grandfather Abai Jan Koja taught his grandson, who knew by heart 45 words of Abai's edification and his collections of poems. Father Omar Han died in 1909. Mother Nur Jamal died 3 years later. In 1912, Mukhtar Auezov lived with his grandfather and grandmother. The Auez and Kunanbai families were in a respectful relationship and were in close contact with each other. Auez married his younger sister Nurganim to Kunanbai, and he himself was a good friend to Abai. Their winter quarters were nearby, approximately 3 to 4.5 kilometers apart. Therefore, Mukhtar Auezov grew up together with the descendants of Abai, Turagul, Mikhail, Izkail, Kamila, Akalbai, and of course Abai's influence. His blessing did their job. Their grandfather in history was Koja. Clan Koja from Turkestan spreads from Baksai's Koja. He moved here and asked Abai for land next to him. Ayakjan Koja chose this area, Borili. Auez, teaching children from Abai's village, gained wisdom in Abai's philosophy. Therefore, his son Omar Han always looked up to Abai, to his views and reasoning. This can be seen in the memoirs of Mukhtar Auezov. Once my father promised me to make an interesting gift, and I was waiting for it for a long time. In the spring, when the snow began to melt and the first grass appeared, I received my gift. It was Abai's book. When the village was leaving the winter quarters, my father, day or night, when he was at home, forced me to learn Abai's poems and read them by heart. He listened attentively, and if there were mistakes, I had to learn again, the writer recalls. Here is the direct influence of Abai's life and work on Mukhtar Auezov. Many old items that are associated with that period of time are now kept in the house museum. We keep ashtray, beautiful dishes brought from India, copies of writing samples in a classroom, inkwell, a copy of the certificate, the costume worn by the writer. Museum staff collect, systemize, and tells visitors all the known information about Abai, Mukhtar, and Shakarim. The members of the scientific expedition led by Sapar Iskakov also stopped at the Aral Tobe area, which is 7 to 8 kilometers from Borili. Abai's wives, Dilda, Jusub Khazi, and Aigrim Beke Khazi, as well as Abai's daughter-in-law, Dosim's daughter, Kaji Tati, are buried here. Tati is the wife of Magawi Kutaiba's son. Aigrim's winter quarters were located in this region. Abai lived there for about 10 years and was actively involved in work at that time. The next stop of the scientific expedition team is the memorial complex Abai Shakarim in Zhidebai. A majestic tower-shaped mausoleum with multifaceted domes was built in 1995. That year, the 150th birth anniversary of the great thinker was celebrated at the UNESCO level. Abai, his younger brother Osman, Shakarim, and his son Ahat are buried in the mausoleum. Today, this place is considered the Mecca of the literary world.
Олар да комплекске кіреді. Ені 36 метр,
This place is part of a complex. It is a large museum. Its width is 36 meters. There is an amphitheater at a hotel. All this forms a single complex.
Олардың барлығы бір комплекске кіріп тұр.
The length of the platform of the complex is 200 meters. The width is 65 meters, and the height is 5 meters. The height of the Abai Tower is 32.5 meters. The Shakarim Tower is 31.5 meters. This is the world's largest mausoleum in terms of area. The authors of the project are a group of artists headed by Bek Ibrahim. They compared the mausoleum to a large ship plying the steppe. In fact, when the weather is hot in the steppe, the mausoleum seems to be a large ship. This is the embodiment of the idea of a white ship in a sea of wisdom.
Бірақ сол жерде бір көңілге түйін бола беретін бір нәрсе бар. Анау Абай жатқан жер.
However, there is one important detail worth mentioning. There is no open access to the place where Abai is buried. He lies under the stone. This time Mr. Sain spoke about it. I know we need to remove the stone, but we could not do it.
Мен білем, сол бетін ашу керек еді. Абай ауыр бетонның астында жатыр дегенде, соны жасай алмай қалдық.
A tombstone in the complex and the old photograph are eye-catching. In 1940, on the eve of the 95th birth anniversary of the outstanding thinker, Mukhtar Auezov restored Abai's grave and installed a tombstone there. It is written in Latin letters, Ibrahim Kunanbayev, the great Kazakh poet, thinker. August 10, 1845, June 23, 1904. All this is also written in Cyrillic, but the old photograph brings back memories 1957. Mukhtar Auezov tribute to the memory of Abai. That year, the 60th anniversary of Mukhtar Auezov was also widely celebrated in the Semey and Abai districts. The Abai Museum is located in the Abai Shakari Memorial Complex. The building, which has been a museum since 1945, was once Abai's winter quarters. It was reconstructed many times, but still it was possible to preserve its original appearance. In the honorary room, Abai was working. Now the museum has a lot of exhibits that tell and cover the periods from Abai's childhood to his formation as a philosopher and thinker.
Абайдан қалған көп заттар қайтарылды. Ол кісінің туыстарынан, жерлестерінен.
Many of Abai's things that went to his relatives, acquaintances, and fellow countrymen were handed over to the museum. There are exhibits which were returned to the Semey Museum. Now it is a large museum visited by many tourists.
Қазіргі уақытта туристер баратын үлкен бір мұражайға айналды.
All the exhibits in the museum are valuable, but the most special is Abai's 3-string dombra. He often played it. Tapestry of Dilda, Igrim's Persian carpet that came with a dowry, a saddle trimmed with silver, which Abai presented to Igrim, a skull cap of Kunanbai Khazi, sewn in Mecca. At the same time, there are several more special exhibits. These are carts, or as the Kazakhs call them, the arba. They stand in the courtyard of the museum. On these horse-drawn carts, Abai traveled from Zhidebai to Semey in 2 days. This path stretches for 178 kilometers. Ahead of the 175th birth anniversary of Abai, this monument was altogether reconstructed. New facilities have also opened. One of them is a monument to Abai with his sons. It was taken from the only surviving photograph of the thinker with his sons. In general, only 2 original photographs of the poet have survived to this day. On one of them, Abai is alone, on the second, with his sons. The idea of the composition was not only about portrait likeness. The author Nurbal Kaliyev set out to show the sons' love for the great father and their boundless pride. The monument to Abai with his sons is an excellent creative solution because there is a state historical, cultural, and literary memorial museum reserve, Zhidebai Borili, near it. All together make up a single cultural ensemble.
Үш тұлға Abai, Shakarim, Mukhtar Auezov, үш тұлғаның кіндігін.
3 personalities, Abai, Shakari, Mukhtar Auezov. I think Semey is the land that gave our people these 3 outstanding sons. The land where they were born and raised should become a spiritual mecca of a great culture.
Үлкен мәдениеттің рухани меккесіне айналу керек.
We think that the festive celebrations will not be limited to the events dedicated to the 175th birth anniversary of the great Kazakh poet. Starting from 2020, August 10 is declared the Day of Abai. The thinker's holiday must become a holiday of thought.